House on Eden, from 2025, directed by Chris Collins. So, three social media horror vloggers, played by real-life vloggers KallMeKris, director Chris Collins, Selena Spooky Boo, Selena Myers, and Jason Christopher Mayer, have a paranormal investigation show and are looking for the next big thing. Chris believes she's found something unique that no one knows about and bum rushes her cohorts into investigating it. In the dead of night, in the middle of a forest. The story is told via a found footage conceit along with a wild mishmash of HD, 8mm, and DV cameras, although where the footage was found and who found it is entirely unaddressed. Now let me freely admit that I have a soft spot for found footage, whether it's Cannibal Holocaust, the Blair Witch Project, Grave Encounters, or even mockumentaries like Norrie the Curse, Lake Mungo, and the Blackwell Ghost series. I've watched a lot of found footage, both good and bad, and unfortunately, House on Eden falls squarely in the bad category. It does a lot of the found footage tropes and tricks you've seen before, some quite well, but it doesn't quite overcome the feeling you've seen this before. In better and more focused films, like Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor, just to name the most recent. You have the static shots, the Chekhov's gun-esque offhand comments, the suspenseful, ghostly non sequiturs, and the classic everything makes sense in the end type of final act that feels wholly undeserved with wildly disparate plot threads. The acting is okay. Not great, but certainly not the worst I've ever seen. I'm looking at you, Hollows Grove. And you can tell the group of friends in real life with their very lived-in small talk. The first act shines due to the trio's chemistry and the usual flippant, unserious B-roll and bickering. Unfortunately, it's all downhill from there. Chris's quest, that takes them to the mysterious house in the middle of nowhere, is poorly explained. And that is probably the most egregious problem with the plot. She clearly states that she discovered something juicier than the graveyard they were supposed to investigate. Something that no one online is talking about. Sprinkled through the rest of the film, we only really get one other detail about the case that Chris discovered. That it pertained to a missing girl or several missing girls. That's all the information we're given, and while I realize that they want to keep up suspense and prevent spoon-feeding the plot to the audience, it's scanty enough that you can't imagine anyone would consider it a juicy scoop. When the nefarious plot reaches its conclusion, a conclusion extraordinarily similar to Hereditary, I would mention, I was left with a realization that yes, it really was that simple of a story. I realize that you want the audience to put the pieces together themselves, but this movie really pushed it. It's no exaggeration that by the time the supernatural shenanigans pick up, the movie is over. There's no build-up, certainly no suspense, and absolutely no tension. And when the movie's plot boils essentially down to only a specific type of woman goes missing and/or even finds this house on Eden, insert title card here, we're given the facts that Chris fulfills all of these conditions. We don't need a ham-fisted flashback glitch in the camera to drive the point home. I think that's really my biggest problem with the movie. It simultaneously wants to be smart and explain everything to you like a 2-year-old. It can't make up its mind, though, so we end up in the curious position of waiting impatiently for the plot to kick in, seeing everything odd as being mildly threatening, and then feeling completely angry when everything just gets thrown out the window in favor of satanic cultists. On the special effects side, there's a truly excellent skin-tearing scene and a passable suicide throat-slitting, the latter also giving the same questionable fan service as the elderly cultists at the end of Hereditary. But this is a pretty tame film overall. It has little in the way of scares. Currently streaming on Shudder. Also available video on demand. An inconsistent pastiche of Antrim, House of the Devil, and Ghost Hunters, with a bit of Bad Ben on the side, House on Eden plays out like a glorified vanity project with nary a scare to show for it. There's little suspense, virtually no characterization, and the climax leaves much to be desired. I would actually hesitate to suggest this film to anyone, as I found little memorable about it. I give House on Eden a 0 out of 10. Okay, now I would have given it a 1 out of 10, as I try not to give out zeros unless the film really has absolutely nothing going for it. But I do have to make an exception for this film, because it did something that really ground my gears. And that was the inclusion of those hucksters, Sam and Colby. I realize that KallMeKris is of that generation, and that Sam and Colby are popular for some godforsaken reason, despite the deplorable hamming it up and mugging for views, but including them in the film just invalidated any goodwill I had towards the naturalistic friendship of the main characters. As soon as Chris FaceTimed them to see if they'd heard of the House on Eden, as proof that no one in the ghost hunting vlogosphere had heard of the case, I felt the bottom of my stomach drop out. I just find their shtick so tiresome, and they're almost pervasive in the community. I see them all over YouTube, TikTok, Prime. Hell, they even have their own demon investigation from Hunt a Killer. Anyway, diatribe aside, that was the proverbial nail in the coffin for me. So how do you guys feel about Sam and Colby? Have you seen this movie, House on Eden? You let me know in the comments. Continue having a spooky October, and have a good night, y'all.